Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming to this tonight. Thank you, Representative DeRosa, for putting this on. I'm John Drohan. I'm the current chair of the Holliston Economic Development Committee. I think this is kind of like, I've looked at this as kind of step one in kind of a long series of steps in trying to kind of revitalize the economic business community here in Holliston and kind of, take a snapshot of where we're at right now, and then to try and get it to where everybody envisions it to be. I've been in Holliston now for 20 years, over 20 years, as a small business owner as well. So, I'm connected to the business community. I'm connected to the town, as my wife is from the town. So I have a lot of vested interest in seeing the business community grow. And again, this is I'm not speaking for the Economic Development Committee, but I truly see that this business center, that kind of not just downtown, but kind of all of kind of this local business as being a critical part of kind of the growth and ongoing, upward movement of Holliston. And I think it bleeds into everything else. I think it bleeds into the housing and into the school system. I think that the business community is a really, really important part of it, because if you ask people, what are some of the things you really like about Holliston, inevitably someone always says, we love the downtown. We love kind of how it has that small town feel. It has that the ability to kind of feel like, oh, well, it's home, and we love like the local businesses. There's a couple of businesses that have been around, more than a minute, and everybody loves that. And the thing is kind of, and we see this especially in post-COVID, where if the businesses, if those businesses aren't kind of taken care of and allowed to be able to grow and to be able to kind of develop and be able to make money, because that's what businesses need to do, then they're going to wither on the vine. And then that part of the town, which I think is a really important part, is going to wither along with it. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to James, and thank you very much.
Terrific. No, thank you. No, that's great. All good. Thank you, John. Really appreciate it. And we were one of those families that when we first drove through, we loved the downtown. So it's absolutely true. And then our kids lived at Fisk for many, many years along the way. So, but I am delighted to be here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Holliston Cable for recording this. We really appreciate it. Thank you, John, for helping us promote this when Angie and I were walking around and letting people know about it. A couple of people said, oh yeah, we heard about it. John's been in touch. And so I appreciate that very much. Here's what we're going to do tonight. I'm just going to give a brief overview, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, about some of the things that are happening at the state, some of the interests that I have. And then really the purpose of most of this evening is to throw it open. After I speak, though, I am going to ask Travis to come up and join me, because so many of the issues that you face as business leaders, or those of you in finance that are interested in the business community here in Holliston, sometimes it's a state issue, sometimes it's a federal issue, very often it's a local issue, sometimes it's a combination of those. So I appreciate Travis being here with us, and after I speak, he's going to speak for just a few minutes. And John, for long term, as these economic development meetings take place and things happen, time permitting, I'm happy to sit in, listen, learn, certainly want to be helpful in any way that I can as it comes to the state. And again, the main purpose is going to be to listen to all of you. So hopefully we'll be done with our formal remarks in about 10 or 15 minutes. I am thrilled to be a representative of this community. I love Holliston. I've been here for 30 years. It is such an honor to serve this community. I did serve a brief time on the Finance Committee, and I know how important small business is to the future of a community. It's really important. We're always trying to balance the need for additional resources to support all the great things that the town of Holliston does, whether it's our school or community resources. And I know that often town boards struggle with, how do we accommodate and work with business in a way that's productive, in a way that's also supportive of the residents as well. But it's that ongoing debate about, the tax base and how things work. Some of you know my work previous to local involvement. I took on the fossil fuel industry, worked against corporate largesse, and I always remind my peers, and I tend to be progressive on social justice issues, but on economic issues, I consider myself to be a pragmatic, common sense Democrat. And I always remind my peers, small business is so different from the corporate world. They're the backbone of the local economy. They keep us going. They face a different set of issues. And I think sometimes there are those in government that make the mistake of, they look at the business world as not being supportive of what's going on, when it's just not true. I mean, for us to be successful at the community, we have to have the nonprofits work closely with the community, work closely with the business community, and work closely with the town as well. So that's just sort of a brief overlay to where I'm coming from. I do have a little bit of experience with 2 small family businesses. I did the accounting for my uncle's gas station. I also helped fix cars as well. And then later I helped my brother-in-law with some of the issues he was dealing with a family farm and trying to work with the state on applying for grants and loans. And I will tell you, and this was years ago, and and I know it's cliche, but it's so bureaucratic trying to work some of the government systems, and we need to do a better job of that. If I can be helpful, please let me know. I'll give you one example. Working with a farmer in Sherburne, which is part of the district. He happens to be a hemp grower, but he's like, James, he said, it's illegal for me to prepare certain products and sell them in Massachusetts. He said, but, he said, in Maine, it's legal for them to do that preparation. Then they can bring them across the border, and it's legal for them to sell them here in Massachusetts. And stuff like that just drives me crazy. And we can debate what should or should not be a legal product to sell. That's beside the point. If you're going to let farmers from Maine come here and do it, why can't our local businesses do that as well? I'm a big believer in alignment and sort of, again, this goes back to common sense. We're a small region of the country, and we shouldn't be putting our small businesses at a disadvantage. I want to talk a little, I'm going to give a few general overlay issues. Some of these may affect you, some of them may not. I want to talk a little bit about the unemployment insurance fiasco, the $2 billion mistakes made by Charlie Baker in the previous administration that we're dealing with. I'm not thrilled with the way the state dealt with the solution. Some of you may know this, some of you may be experiencing this. The first $2 billion mistake, there were a lot of people who filed for unemployment during COVID who thought they were eligible. Now, there were some people who were fraudulent. They lied. The state decided for them, the state's going to go after them, and I understand that, but the state decided to indemnify anybody who honestly filed their paperwork, they thought they were eligible, they got paid, then the state realized, oh, we shouldn't have paid you. So the state decides to indemnify the individuals. I applaud that. What I don't like is then they turn around and charge the surcharge to the business community. Why is business paying for the mistake of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? And, by the way, and I've already mentioned this in hearings because I'm on small business, why not at least, you want to go after Amazon and Walmart? Fine. Why not say, okay, we're going to have to do a surcharge because we have to build back the fund, but the first 50 employees are exempt from this surcharge. And I'll tell you, it doesn't take a lot of employees to get nailed. I have some business owners in other towns. They're looking at $15,000 to $20,000 a year. And when your margins are small for a small business, that's a lot of money for some small businesses. So anyway, we'll see how that goes forward. But we're definitely going to look at some things in the years ahead. The second $2 billion mistake, it was supposed to come out of the unemployment fund, and the state took it from the wrong fund. Now, again, the question is, do we have to recoup that? And what I have already said is, how about if we do this? Let's look at where the unemployment rate is. Yes, we need to build back the unemployment insurance fund. But if unemployment stays low, let's just take our time and build it back slowly. If it starts to ramp up, then maybe we'll have to consider whether or not to increase it. So we haven't decided, the state hasn't decided how to deal with that one yet, but it's kind of unfortunate what's gone forward, and I don't think enough discussion went on with business before what they decided to do. One thing I want to just put out there, I am happy to come and meet you, learn more about your business, your specific challenges and issues. I had a chance to go to meet with Griffin Electric. It's amazing. They work all over the world. We met with Spires. They do some great work as well, manufacturing. There's some interesting legislation to encourage more skilled apprenticeships. We have a serious challenge in the Commonwealth right now. We don't have enough young people in the pipeline for a number of businesses that need to survive and thrive in Massachusetts. We also, again, this is another one of these rules that drives me crazy, and I was talking to Wayne Griffin about this, and he said, James, when we apply for state contracts, some of them require some very specialized work around electric work and installations. And in order to get the contract, you have to have a skilled worker with these certain credentials, which makes sense to me. He says, but here's the thing, he said, other contractors game the system. They apply for the grants, and they don't have these people yet. And then if they get the money, they undercut us, and then if they get the money in the contract, they then scramble to find workers. He said, why isn't, here we are, and it's not just us, it's a lot of businesses. We invest time, energy, money in having a skilled workforce, and then we get penalized by the process. Why shouldn't all those why shouldn't we have to have those people in place before you apply? I think he's right. It's something we're looking at. There's actually some legislation we're working on as well. I know that there's a couple things that Angie handed out a worksheet. There's some interesting things going on related to the lack of skilled individuals. There's some incentives. Hopefully that'll go through to hire formerly incarcerated, give people a second chance. We also want to encourage entrepreneurship. There's also legislation to create an Office of Main Streets. Travis and I have talked a little bit about this. You know, there's billions of dollars coming from the federal government over the next several years. You've probably heard about it. Small towns are at a disadvantage right now in accessing that money. Unlike cities, some cities have whole divisions of grant writers that they chase it down, they focus, they follow it. That's their avocation. We don't really have that. And I've been trying to support our towns to go after that money. We were successful in getting small earmarks for a few communities to hire economic development officers, which Holliston's going to do. Hopkinton has done. They're going to have to take it on in their own budget eventually, but at least it helped jumpstart it a little bit. We want to work closely with that person and the towns because there's all these streams of money coming in, and just trying to track where the money's coming from, how you apply for it, are you eligible. It's somewhat convoluted, and the more we can help with that, and the more that there's someone in place to focus on it all the time, I think that's really important. So hopefully that's going to help a little bit. And how do I say this one diplomatically? One of the things I've noticed very quickly in my role as a state representative is, you know, I'm all for equity. I mean, it's part of who I am. We know that there's been inequity for some of the cities in Massachusetts. There's been some historic issues that we've had to work with and deal with. However, if you start to look at the funding formula for the way we do roads and schools and things, I'm tired of the small towns getting screwed. Now, Senator Spilka's a little more diplomatic. She calls the need for regional equity. So I told her I'm going to use that from here on in. But it's really, it's kind of historic, and we're slowly chipping away at it. This recent budget that got passed, we got more money for the MWRTA out of Framingham that's going to help the town of Holliston and others. They were way behind, and there was sort of these historic inequities in the way the funding was set up. So that's finally being dealt with. But I think there's so many places where we hope to deal with that. I have an interest. You know, we have all these caucuses around shared interests in the House of Representatives. There's no small town caucus. And yet, if you look at the numbers, there's probably more of us than anybody else in Massachusetts. We don't work together. So hopefully, I'll be able to help with that over time as I get more settled. I want to add one more overlay because a lot of small businesses have asked about this. It's the question about what about state taxes? In the budget that we just passed, we set aside $581 million for tax relief. However, it has yet to be determined exactly what we're going to agree on. The big thing that's come up that a lot of business owners have asked, and families too, is what about the estate tax? I voted for, and I do support, raising the exclusion to $2 million, which would make a big difference. I mean, $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but it's just not anymore. If you have a house and some modest assets, you're exceeding that. So hopefully that will pass. It remains to be seen. It's passed the House. It just has to be, there's ongoing negotiations with the Senate on what we'll end up with. But I'm happy to keep in touch with anybody who wants to know when we finally decide. I'm sure the news will get out there. But we're trying to do what we can. We're also trying to be, you know, I love Massachusetts, but it's hard when you're one of two states that does something differently, and we're way behind the rest of the country. It kind of puts us at a disadvantage. Well, that doesn't mean we have to follow every state for everything they do, but I think on the estate tax, we would be wise to change that. So before we throw it open, and we're almost small enough, and we'll have to decide, and maybe when we get to the open session, people can spend it before their questions, just take a minute telling me what their business is and who they are, because I think it would be great to know that. But because so many issues that you all face Sometimes it's a state issue, but very often it's something that plays out at the local community level. It's something to do with zoning. It's something to do with what's happening with traffic or local regulations. And sometimes we collaborate. You know, Travis is in touch with us all the time, and vice versa, the select board as well. I asked, Travis is going to come up and join me. He's going to just give you a few words of some of the things that's maybe happening from a town perspective around economic development and the business community. Maybe he'll talk for 3 or 4 minutes in general, and then we'll throw it open to just listen and learn and take some questions. And everyone knows who you are, right? Travis Ahern, Town Administrator.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I got 3 to 4 minutes, so I'll start with that. Travis Ahern, Town Administrator. I started July of 2020, so peak COVID, so it's been about 3 years now. Just over. Some of the exciting things we've done in this field, I think since I've been here, we've had 3 chairs of the EDC. John Drohan, who introduced this event earlier, has been in place now for quite a while. Matt Coletti before him, and Peter Barbieri, who's been a longstanding member of the community as well. I think what was always identified through all 3 of those chairs was that the EDC has a great group of volunteers, but really could use some dedicated staff support. What we did with some ARPA money probably 2 years ago at this point was engaged MAPC, which does a number of different planning initiatives in our area, to look at how we are operating our EDC, economic development in general, and they put together a document that was published in February 2023, which is on our website, called the EDC Vision and Service Model Report. There's a number of different findings in it, all of which the EDC is now using in their discussions as they move forward. One of them was a recommendation to either partner with a neighboring community to have a full-time economic development coordinator or hire the town's own part-time economic development coordinator. If you're familiar with the area outside of Holliston, probably the best example of our model would be what Ashland has done. They hired originally a part-time economic development coordinator, and they've built it up over time into closer to a full-time position. And so, you know, MAPC compared us to other communities in the area, and they made this recommendation. So with that, and with the help of our legislators, we did ask for some state funding to support that, and then also town meeting in May of this year supported it for the budget, which just went into effect in July. So that position is actually posted right now. It closes on September 1st, and so we would expect to see that individual in town and reaching out to all of the small businesses and industrial parks, really any business in Holliston or business interest in Holliston, as soon as they start. So the way that MAPC viewed that was phase 1, really building the local capacity of that position. So there's going to be a lot of meet and greets. This person's got to build relationships with everybody in this room, with our legislators and others as well. You know, begin to get in touch with individuals, figure out what their needs are, start to put them in touch with potential grant opportunities, training opportunities, and then, you know, begin to really build that up for consistent engagement with the final part of phase 1 to also begin to impact some of our processes for those potential tenants' inquiries into, you know, open space, you know, whether it be commercial or industrial spaces. Phase 2 is really to build that position even further up, really impacting all of the ways in which we have been doing economic development in the past few decades. So it's an exciting thing. I think we have a lot of things that will support that person. The EDC is a very strong group right now. I think they've been doing a great job, but really, you know, I think this position is going to help them move forward. And then I think what we'll tie that together too. Right now we're going through a town-wide strategic initiative, which is being run by a consultant named Barry Dunn. And I think one of the things that's really come out of that, I think most people in this room probably knew this, but for those who don't necessarily think about these things, some of what has held us back as a community in terms of having a wide variety of business types in the community is a lack of infrastructure in certain areas. Sewer is one that impacts Holliston and other communities like us. But also, you know, we have water main breaks. We have an investment in infrastructure that this community needs to make. And so I think that's really coming through from the community. Additionally, you know, some things in terms of parking in the downtown, which is now should be coming online shortly on Green Street, you know, a redone Blair Square. A lot of infrastructure projects have been put forward through the select board, supported by the finance committee and town meeting, and so we've really made progress in that area. I think that will help this new person really hit the ground running as well. But also, you know, I anticipate that this person will bring some new information to the town that will help us move forward as well. So we're excited for that. Again, that closes September 1st, and I think you can all expect to hear from that person in the not too distant future.
Good.
Anything else you need from me?
No, that's great, but stay here.
Okay.
Okay, is that all right?
That's fine.
Good. All right. So the main purpose of this evening is to listen. And I think what we'll do is just, I would like whoever's going to speak to introduce yourselves, just who you are, what your business is, because I think it would just be helpful, or why you're here, I guess. If you're not a business owner, that's fine too. But just for context. And then you can ask a question or make a comment or just share a concern. There's no sort of formal what you have to do. The only caveat I'd like to add is that I may not have an answer for you. Travis might have an answer for you, but I promise to get back to you. With that, why don't we just throw it open? Angie, do you want to just, I wanted everyone to make sure she knew that you all knew about Angie Peng. She's take 1 minute to tell everybody who you are.
Use the microphone, please.
She's been a wonderful intern this summer and has been very helpful.
Hi, I'm Angie Fang. I've been interning with the representative this summer. I'm a senior at the Noble and Greeno School. I live in Sherborne, so I've been part of the district for my whole life. My mother owns a small business. She owns Copley Financial. So this has always been a matter that I'm really passionate about.
Great, thank you. And she's been setting up, we have a series of roundtables that we're doing. She's doing them in several of the towns, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think some of you have met Jeff Myers. He can be with us tonight, but you can always reach out. I think our contact is on that sheet we handed out. Please always, if you need anything, reach out to us. So thank you. All right, so open forum.
I think Tom will bring a mic to anybody who'd like to speak.
That's right. All good.
Hi, Brian Goodman. I live in town, and also I am in the process of opening a second location for my business, Rushford and Sons Brew House, right over there. And I guess this is not going to come as a shock to anybody who's been paying attention for the last 2 minutes. I feel like one of the biggest, town infrastructure, namely sewer, is going to be a hurdle for the next few years. But I don't really think that's a big deal. What I would love to see is, so we're going to be opening up in a historic building in downtown, and another one of the big issues we're going to be dealing with is, it's a very old building that in past, it hasn't really, needs a lot of structural upgrades to come up to code. And that can be kind of difficult for a lot of small business owners and property owners that aren't big conglomerates, because now, whether it's my business or any business that goes in there, anybody pulls a permit, the structure has to come up to code, and that could be very cost prohibitive when you want to respect the character of the town and not just be a big developer that's going to knock it down and build just build whatever that's there, which is, again, prohibitive in the economic climate that's here. Believe me, I'm dealing with that in another project. So seeing something that could not only help with just the general infrastructure, but also bringing the historic buildings up to code, some kind of relief there too. I feel like that would go a long way to attracting new businesses to downtown and making it easier, rather than, hopefully we can, do something here. So now I'm just kind of rambling, but again, more, I guess, to put a bow on it, programs to help maintain and modernize existing historic, charming buildings.
So I'm going to look at that because I know there's some money for that. I don't know if you'd be eligible, but I'm happy to. We'll take a look at that. And not to answer for everybody in the town, but I'm sure most people would prefer refurbishing historic buildings versus knock down and with someone who's got the money to make it to code. But anyway, Travis, is there anything local that might be relevant or?
Relevant, I don't know that it answers the question. So I think probably one of my concerns that we've been monitoring all towns, and I know at the State House as well, one of my concerns is going to be cost for a business owner, a property owner, as it relates to the stretch code. That's obviously not the specific question that Mr. Goodman was asking, but the stretch code is going into effect, and so for individuals who are doing, making changes to a structure, whether it be historic or not, are going to start to see things that are going to come out of that. I know that the building inspector, Mark Kafferline, is very nervous about having to tell businesses, to once the new stretch code goes into effect, there's going to be changes to what it would cost to pull a permit on X, Y, or Z, because you have to bring up the insulation to, higher standards than ever before. So again, that's not specific to the historic aspect of it. I think related to that, there is a town committee called the Historic Commission, and they, I know, have been working on design standards that they would like to see, especially if a downtown sewer project were to move ahead, that they want to make sure that there aren't a lot of tear downs and rebuilds and those types of things. So they're talking about design standards. Neither of those answer your specific question, but they're both, I think, generally related to those concerns. I think from the stretch code perspective, I would reiterate, that's going to impact residential, it's going to impact business, it's going to impact everybody. And I think what I'm looking for still from the state, and I think, Representative DeRosa, I'm sure, is aware as well, is my concern right now is that there doesn't appear to be the funding in place at the same timeline as the stretch code is going into effect. So other than that, obviously we've talked about your specific example one-on-one, and I think if there's anything that we can work with the State House on to get, those types of things accomplished, that'd be great.
I have to scoot out right after this because I have a group gathering at our space. I'm Ahern. Ahern DeFoyd. I live in Medway, and I lead the Bird and Bear Collective, which is right downtown here. I think maybe 3 points. One is awesome. This is awesome. Thank you for gathering this. It was exciting to have it slipped into my mailbox. I don't live in town. I try my best as a solopreneur to stay on top of happenings in the community for myself, but it's by no means easy by any means. So thank you for this opportunity. I'll raise my hand on behalf of the collective as well as the small business community that really I have the pleasure of doing a lot of life with that aren't your traditional businesses, but there's a really, really vibrant community of small businesses that are connected to our collective. So whether it be photographers, therapists, farmers, coaches that don't have your traditional downtown brick and mortar space, but are really eager about the opportunity in this community, and really see that as a way, I think, to maybe pull in some other resources and to be an extra voices that may not be here today because they don't consider themselves like that traditional small business. But I just think that there's some opportunities there. So some of that small business caucus or ways that we can come alongside that, I just raised our hand on that. For anybody who doesn't know, we host like small business networking in our space. I know John and I have talked about there's not a traditional Holliston Business Council, for instance. I think a lot of businesses, myself included, we don't really feel like we fit in a traditional business council because it's mostly insurance or lawyers or the dentist's office, which are all awesome. So we are hosting, we host small business networking at least once a month in our space. So a great place to, again, hear voices, rally support, get feedback, all ears of exciting opportunities. I heard the things around funding or things that we would love any opportunities to stay plugged into that. Number two. And I think the third is just as it relates to the infrastructure conversations and feedback. I love seeing the progress. Everybody, because I'm a downtown, and I'm sure my downtown friends get the same, like, what's happening downtown? What's going on with the sewer? I see the parking lot. What's happening? And I'm like, progress. That's all I can say is it's progress. We have to be patient with some of these things. But maybe some heads up communication would be awesome for us downtown people. Like I've been asked I'm on this side of the street, so the parking lot's exciting, but like, when's it going to be done, Aaron? Like, I'm not grounds. I don't know. But a place where even if as I get questions or as I collect feedback, if there's I don't ever want to be a cog, so I don't want to push, and I don't have capacity, but if there's a place where I should put this type of feedback or questions to the town, that would be awesome. And then the ask on my part is if there is going to be like a major development, like kind of comes up, some level of communication to small businesses. There was a few days this summer which there was something broken, I guess, under the street. And there's probably like 13 construction guys right outside my building taking, I think, every spot down the stretch, all of my parking spots. I guess I know I support progress so much, but that has a huge impact on what we can, even the ability to be open because people can't park there. So that's a huge hit on already slow season, but just that opportunity to have a heads up so that I can feel encouraged and continuously feel really positive and encouraged by the progress. even like feeling a little bit empowered, I think, too. I threw out some very supportive, I think, creative suggestions to the crew there to say, like, I love that you guys are going to be here all day, and those trucks have a purpose, but do the things like the vehicles that are carrying all those trucks, so they need to be in these parking spots from 8 till 5, when they may have been able to move to like a other parking lot or something, just so that we can get access to the parking spot. So if I can be empowered on that, I think that would be a cool opportunity, especially as it relates to downtown development and keeping it vibrant so that people don't avoid it. And we can communicate it via all the ways that we communicate social media and these voices and the like. So
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Then I'll let Travis answer the downtown traffic and all that stuff. Does the networking group meet at a regular time, or does it just depend? Or
it's monthly at a various time, because we're really trying to be inclusive.
I'd love to connect with the sort of non-traditional or just non-brick and mortar. 'Cause
Absolutely.
It's still a vibrant part of the community, and it's
So absolutely, that's why I'd say raise my hand if you're looking at your calendar, or the team, if you have like certain dates as you're looking out, we can look out through the fall or the season to come and really align around that. I think that could be an exciting opportunity.
And you're an easy walk from my house, so I can just come see you and find out what's going on. So
Terrific.
Sounds good.
Terrific.
All right, but I don't know if you want to answer the other things about.
Yeah, no, I mean, Aaron's been in a lot of our strategic planning and our economic development planning things. So, I think what we've heard is the communication is better than it was before, but communication. And I think that, we've made progress. I think the economic development, part-time economic development coordinator position is a big part of that. I think we need to have somebody who is keeping everybody up to speed as it relates to projects that are going to be impacting them on a day-to-day basis. We've done the quarterly newsletter, but we still have people who are unaware of the quarterly newsletter, and it's probably our best subscribed to item. So, it's continuing to push it. So I get that message, and I think we've made progress, but there's a lot to go. And I think that capacity of that person is going to help as well. I mean, Kathleen Buckley starting as the assistant town administrator probably 2 years ago at this point, from what was previously an executive assistant position, created the newsletter, has done some of those things. We try to use Facebook more. Should we be on other social platforms, et cetera? We're working through that. I think the Economic Development Committee itself has its own website that hasn't been managed as aggressively as it probably should be. This position, a major component of that. So again, I think that message is well taken. As it relates specifically to the parking lot project, I would just say I had a conversation today that the holdup has been that Eversource needs to electrify the lighting of the area and what will be the EV parking section of it, and they are not going to be able to do that on our timeline, so we're going to have to get them to do what they can so that they can tell us they will not dig up anything, finish the parking lot, and then come back for the EV when they can electrify it. I can't blame Eversource. Apparently, you can't get transformers in 2023, so it's not a blame game. But it is at some point we have to say we can't keep this inaccessible when people at Goodwill Park, people for the downtown area, could be using this parking lot prior to the EV coming live. So we'll switch gears on that. Hopefully, get that open ASAP. And then, as it relates to keeping other people updated on any of the capital projects that are ongoing. We try to keep the website up to date, but I think, again, I absolutely agree, more communication is always better.
Yeah, and even if I just have, I listen to a lot, so if there's a place you want me to send it, I think I don't want to bombard your inbox. I think this new person, absolutely. A way to send it, just to give you the pulse of that side of the block. I don't know if that's helpful. Again, all in the spirit, I can commit to that. 100% in the spirit of progress in communication, not in the spirit of complaining or being a nag. It just, but just the pulse in the street, because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of curiosity that happens inside the Bird of Air Collective, and I think it's always helpful to know, because you can't be ears and eyes on the street. Absolutely. And we are. So.
Yeah, my office and Kathleen Buckley as well, but I think once we have this new person in, we'll kind of make sure that people know for what to go, who to reach out to as a primary source of contact. As it's business related, we would envision this position doing that. And for non-business related issues, having, the communications person, which is the assistant town administrator.
Awesome.
But
we'll
clarify that when we have the new person on board.
Great. Thank you.
There we go.
I'm Chuck Shepard. I'm the Director of Safety for the S.E. Shires Company in the Hopping Brook Industrial Park. We're a manufacturer of custom brass musical instruments, and we focus primarily on trumpets and trombones. We've been in business for 28 years, and we've been in Holliston for almost 7 years now. We started in Medway in the basement of my brother-in-law's house, moved to Hopedale to a kind of a rundown industrial park, and then were able to buy the space that we have in Holliston about 7 years ago. If there are any questions for me, I'd be glad to take them.
I'm happy to. Well, so first of all, I've been to see the facility. It's awesome. I mean, it's unbelievable what you do there. And I know that one of the questions that you would ask is this question of there are fewer and fewer places that handle hazardous waste. And I've actually started running that question up the chain. And it's complicated because we need to figure it out. And we certainly want there to be effective and efficient storage of the waste. But I'm sure you're not the only business that's saying, look, we want to do the right thing, but nobody can come and get this. I mean, they're not coming soon enough. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes.
I have an update.
But Shires is amazing. That whole setup is just incredible what they do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have an update on that I'll send an email to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Here, so
that'd be great.
I got more information about it.
I would just say I've heard from a few people in Hoppingbrook, and I think John Drohan's passed some of those comments on to me as well, that I think people are seeing the deterioration of the actual Hoppingbrook Road as you come out to 16. So, just have that on the DPW's short list of things to be getting done. We actually technically, for a variety of different reasons, still don't own the road. The actual conveyance of the road to the town for taking was complicated from a legal perspective, but we obviously plow it and we do those things, so I don't think we have any legal reason that we can't resurface the road, and drainage on that road is a big issue as well. So just going back to the infrastructure, but I know that's something that I've heard from a variety of different businesses in Hoppingbrook.
Do you have any update on the Amazon issue, the third development at the end of Hoppingbrook?
You mean 555 Hoppingbrook?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the planning board closed that second application process. They declined the original one, which was appealed, and then they're in deliberation right now on that. I think they must issue their decision within the next month, I believe. It's not, I know people refer to it as Amazon. I think we've definitively were able to find out it was never going to be Amazon, but the way I look at it is if it's a business who's competing with Amazon, what's the difference? Right. But also, no, I think the biggest thing with that, the original application was for 805,000 square feet. The planning board felt like that was outside of greater than probably the character and what that would have impacted the area, and so they chose to not support the 805. It came back at 550,000 square feet, which had been redesigned for a company called NEAG, which exists in Franklin at 270,000 square feet and was looking to expand, and they really liked that location. They wanted to be near 495. NEAG then pulled out, and the CRG put in the application for what they had redesigned for that end user. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, or the biggest sort of fear, is that when the application is not tied to an end user and the community doesn't know who they're going to be partnering with as a business, that's led to a lot of consternation. So we haven't really progressed beyond that because this particular application for 550,000 square feet still does not have a defined end user. So, but that, until the planning board issues their decision, I don't have any other update.
Okay, thank you.
And let me just jump in, and this is interesting because, first of all, anybody can call my office anytime for anything, and we're happy to help navigate. But a number of issues are more local versus state, especially when it comes to zoning, planning. On occasion, if it involves a state road, we might have some voice in getting DOT to do a study. On occasion, I'm happy to call anybody, but more often than not, a lot of times when it comes to zoning and planning, it's really in the purview of the community. But again, we're happy to be helpful if we can. So, yeah, sometimes I get calls about the U.S. mail, and I'm like, well, I'm happy to call the postmaster, but that is a federal responsibility, and they don't answer to me in my budget purview, but we're happy to help. So. That wasn't about Holliston, it was about another town, and we resolved it. But anyway.
Now I want to know more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure.
I'm Jeff Zemer. I have a building and a business on October Hill Road up in the other industrial park here. And we occupy about 26,000 square feet. And we're having a growth issue. And everything that we look at is somewhere a long way away. And it's an issue. So we build high-tech equipment to test satellites and space probes. We built the Mars Curiosity test chamber for NASA Goddard a long time ago. We look forward to keeping technology in the industrial parks instead of just in and out commerce, to give your students that graduate something interesting to work on rather than shuffling boxes, things like that. And it's important whether or not you're an artist building a product that needs a customer. Well, we're technical artists building a product for a customer. Just none of the customers are launching from Holliston. So, you know, what?
I was going to add something.
Oh, go ahead.
One of our issues, and nothing against the cannabis industry, because I know personally how much money they bring into the town, but the cannabis industry has caused rents and building facilities to go up astronomically. So that's one of the reasons we have to look so far away out of Holliston, because it's impossible to find something reasonable here. And as I said, I'm not knocking the cannabis industry, but it's important to realize that in the industrial parks, you know, even if cannabis isn't in a building, because of the way, you know, math works, people think that their buildings are worth more money because they know what cannabis has purchased. So,
Jeff, can you just clarify? So is it not enough space, or is it not enough affordable space, or a little bit of both?
No, the affordability isn't necessarily the issue, believe it or not. It is the type of space and the type of worker.
Okay.
So we need workers that are intelligent, engineering-based, you know, and we pay accordingly. So the incomes are substantially greater. So we just need to have access. Some of our employees come from a fairly long distance, so they drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to work each morning and back. And we're growing. We're growing faster now this year than we have ever grown in the last 10 years. So.
I'm sorry. We're tag teaming here. I just want to add that we regularly get interns from Keefe. And this past year, we've had an intern from Minuteman in Lexington. Every single one of our interns who is in like a manufacturing program is going to college to be an engineer instead of manufacturing. Instead of graduating and going right into manufacturing, they're all going to college to be engineers, every single one of them. So, you know, pulling from the schools doesn't always work, because we thought, oh, you know, we'll get this guy in a year when he graduates. No, you know, he's off to UMass Lowell to be an engineer. So that's one of the reasons it's so hard to find.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys go with the HCP program and go overseas to get technical workers?
Well, okay, so I'm a veteran-owned business. I serve my country, and I'm not going to export my business anywhere. I was born in Boston. I'm going to stay in the area. No, yeah. Yeah, part of the government contracts is that you actually employ Americans. So, you know, it's rather important that I keep the U.S. persons. If you're not a U.S. person, I can't employ you. So that's just federal law. And
As an agricultural business, the only way we can survive, we started last year, was to go with H2A.
yeah, no, I can understand. No, I totally understand that thing. It would be great if I could employ a lower cost base, but I can't.
We did farm tours this morning, and a lot of the agriculture industry depends on H2A. But this issue of workforce is a huge challenge for not just Holliston, the region, the country. And I'm surprised at some of the tech schools. I've talked a little bit on what they're offering, and they seem to be getting away from the things that would help a business like you.
Yeah, in a way they are, but in a way they aren't. So a lot of the new instruments, the new machines that are coming out are much more computer rather than skill oriented. So as a result, it does fit with the current crop of students that are more punch the buttons and run the code.
Are they off to college because they think they're going to make more money? What's happening?
Keith doesn't have one of those programs. Lexington is the closest one in the area.
Right, and I used to serve on their consulting group to aid their development and programs.
Michelle, I'm sorry, what does Keith not have?
Keefe doesn't have advanced manufacturing, neither does Tri-County, and I think Assabet doesn't have it. It's Lexington, the Minuteman, is the closest in the area that has advanced manufacturing.
And those students would come right into working at, I'm just trying to follow.
Yeah, in fact, we've integrated a number of them and currently employed. The biggest thing that we're missing, believe it or not, here in the Boston high-tech circle is electronics technicians.
Yeah.
Can't hire them no matter what you pay them because they aren't making them coming out of school. So you have a vocational institution in the state that isn't making what's needed.
That's right.
And, it's not like I make, repetitive widgets, Each one of these things goes out individually. Some of them weigh in excess of 17 tons is the biggest one that we shipped recently. And that went all the way to San Francisco. So, they go all over the place. But some of them are small. They'll fit on your table. But either way, they make something rather interesting work. So, anyway. Be happy to talk to you guys.
Yeah, I'd like to come visit at some point too.
Okay.
Did you want me to touch on Canada?
Yeah, sure, please.
Anybody else?
I think we've seen what Michelle's referring to in terms of, the cannabis industry certainly helped with avoiding unused industrial space in the town probably in the last 5+ years. I think what we've seen in the last year is that is certainly cooling off. Whether that's going to organically address what you're referring to, I think is to be seen. I know that we've had one property on Jeffrey Ave in the Lowland Industrial Park that was, pursued and still has not, for I believe financial reasons actually come to fruition. I know that we have, I'm sorry? Right. So, I think the select board has approved the HCA to be transferred, but there's still nobody there. We have another site where some of our cannabis companies, and this is not specific to Holliston, this is the area, have been bought by national companies, and then they begin to consolidate them if they buy multiple. And so we see that going on. And so I think that, there is going to be a correction in that particular use, but that doesn't necessarily immediately impact what landlords are asking for square footage. So, and then I think there's been a few different things. Holliston doesn't allow recreational retail, as opposed to we allow growing and manufacturing. And so, the retail I think has got hit even harder, quite honestly, than even the growers have. So, that hasn't hit us necessarily in terms of business tax rolls, but I think we are going to start to see some changes in the per square footage if that market corrects a little bit.
Other questions? I was going to say, even if people don't have a question, maybe everyone can introduce themselves, but go ahead. Yeah.
Please give you the mic.
Oh, wait. Well, no, but
It's for HCAT.
We want HCAT to know who you are, Andy. No, go ahead.
Oh, Andy Reseska, Boston.
Andy, do you have a question? Or
It's more a comment. and
No,
it's-
because okay, that's great. And then if people don't have a specific question, I think it would be great for everyone who hasn't spoken to just do a minute who you are, what your business is, because I think it would be helpful for me to know that.
Do you want to start that first?
No. Go ahead. But
Okay,
you can still
okay.
do your
Okay.
comment.
This is a comment, and it's pretty much a moot comment at this point. And it's all the programs that the town is doing for small business development, economic development, the new part-time position, the rapid recovery plan, MAPC plan, that's all great, and what's common with all these plans and all these goals is to look for funds. And it's unfortunate that, we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to access federal funds through the ARPA program. And Holliston was given $4.4 million in ARPA funds. Approximately $400,000 was earmarked to address negative economic impacts for small businesses. It's unfortunate because the select board and through the ARPA steering committee didn't give $1 to a small business that was economically impacted by COVID within the downtown community. A lot of retail businesses were hurt. One in particular, Camella Boutique. There was an article in the Holliston Tab, and she stated that COVID took her out. And it's just a shame. It's a shame to see. Travis and I spent a lot of time emailing, sending other town projects. I did at the final email I sent to the town through a public comment section to the select board meeting was a program that Hopkinton was doing, and it was a small grant. I think they allocated $100,000 from their ARPA funds to give $5,000 for 20 recipients. And this money, it could be allow a small business to think outside the box, to do window dressing within the downtown community. So when I see the town doing all this effort, and it's a great effort, I still feel it's disingenuous because the town is really not putting money where their plan is going. It's just not. And this was all money that was allocated, and we had access to this money, and we're just not following through. And during that, and I made a comment to the select board meeting, and then the following week, they had a discussion on it, and they talked about the Hopkinton program, and I think Tina Hines says, do we even think small businesses need these type of funds? Come on. So I think it's great. I think it's fantastic, and I want to be part of it because I believe in small business, because small business is the economic driver. And it's not just economics, it's social, because it's social engagement, breweries, restaurants. And I read the other plan this morning, and that was the strategic plan, and it's tied to economic development, John, because it's sort of saying, well, let's try to get a census of all the businesses in town so we can make sure their property taxes are current, right? So it's saying, well, let's make sure we're taxing them to make sure we're getting our property tax money. It's not real. It's sort of not the right way to proceed. You want to make it so the small business is willing and able, and obviously by law, to pay property taxes, and they want to be part of a community instead of putting it into a strategic plan. That we want to make sure we have a census of every small business in town, so we can have our tax assessor go out and tax their property, right? And then the other thing would be I think in that plan there's a 0.75% small meals tax. Holliston is not there right now. We have a very, very small restaurant base and food service, and I think we're putting our cart before the horse. And I think that whole recommendation was based on Ashland, because the Economic Development Coordinator at Ashland is phenomenal. I heard that meeting at the I listened in on that, and she's phenomenal, and it would be great if we can hire someone like her for Holliston, because that's what we need. Thank you.
Just on that last point, I do believe that in the strategic plan where they floated, which is available right now for feedback online, that one of the discussion points was a way that Ashland has scaled up what was originally a part-time economic development coordinator position into full-time, and actually now she, I believe, has a support person as well. is through meals tax. Whether or not Holliston pursues that is still to be determined.
Wait, Mike. Wait. We want HCAT to hear you.
You're on the HCAT board. You should know that.
I
You
think
do
just
baseball
to,
games, too.
just to address the comment of that the whole reason we want to get a census of the business is in order to update the tax base.
That's what it says in the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, here's from speaking from the Economic Development Committee, and for the Economic Development Committee, the new hire that's coming. And we talked about this, ad nauseum, but the plan is we want to, right now, no one really knows all the businesses in Holliston. And, my fault, somebody else, whatever, it doesn't matter, but the whole idea behind this is that we're going to find out and we're going to fix it, and we're going to have somebody, because, as a volunteer organization, we're limited as to what we can do. I don't have time to go and meet every single business in town, but when we have an economic development coordinator, that's going to be their job. So they're going to go to your business, they're going to go to that business, they're going to go to your business, and they're going to say, what do you do? What do you need? What's your issue? And then when we talk about communication, that's the goal, is that this person is going to be able to, like Travis said, that there's going to be a much better, a much more streamlined communication. I mean, again, this is not going to happen overnight, but that's the idea behind it. The tax base in the assessor piece, that's, if somebody has to pay taxes, that they pay taxes. It's not but that's not a discouragement of for them to do business in town. I mean, everybody's got to. We're not going out looking for tax money. That's not what the EDC is doing.
That's what it says in the strategic plan.
Well,
There's two sentences, and it says, census for small business and property tax increase.
well,
That's what it says.
all right.
I understand, I agree with you 100%, I'm just saying,
So I guess my point is that the idea behind this, and the idea behind the fact that that we have our legislators get involved, is to try and to build up the Holliston business community and to find out who everybody is and to find out what everybody needs and to keep talking about this. Just like Aaron said, to be able to find out what the issues are and be able to address them, and because at the end of the day, we want you to make money. Like, we want your business to thrive. Yeah, we want to bring more businesses in, and figuring out the best way to do that through whatever federal or state or local funds that we can get. That's the goal behind it. So yeah, as far as that sentence, I can't really speak intelligently on it, but from an EDC, that's what I care about. I just want to know. Sure.
So instead of looking outside of Holliston, I think you ought to really look inside of Holliston. There's a lot of young kids wanting to grow something, wanting to do something, but they have to go somewhere else. So I moved into Holliston, and I grew something in Holliston. So I moved here, I worked here, I worked in Hopkinton for a while until the company grew out of that, and then I moved it to Holliston. Okay? Your kids, their kids, your grandchildren, depending on generation we're talking about, need a place to grow a business. If you want smaller business to fill up smaller spaces, give them a chance to grow in Holliston, not just be a category that fits in a district. In other words, if they're growing something, let them grow their little, whatever it is, in a small storefront or a back part of a building that's vacant, Yeah, like developer space, model making, things like that. Because if you don't give them a place to start, you're not going to grow something that's going to generate and employ people. I employ over 20 people now, okay? I started with myself, okay, in Holliston. So, it can be done. And now my kids are joining me in my business. So, this is the way you grow a community, is you have to work with what you got. Your people here are the people you have. Work with them to fill their dreams, and you'll find that you can get somewhere. So, just my comment.
We were being efficient with government resources, but we did put the lights on. It's getting a little dark, so. Anyone else? I mean, I would like everyone to introduce themselves if you don't have a specific question. I just think it's good to do that. What's the name of the company, Jeff?
Abbess Instruments, ABBESS. We're in you know where we are. You will shortly.
Thanks.
Easy to find in Google.
James, my name is Tim. I work at Holliston Oil. Holliston Oil has been in town over 75 years. I need to compliment Erin on her lack of communication, the fact that you don't know anything that's going on until there's a sign up that says road closed. And you go to the people and they say, well, your customers know you're open. I said, nope, there's policemen, send them the other way. We get a bridge down from where our customers access us. It's going to be closed for 2 more years. It closed earlier this year, and they're saying now April of 25. Originally it was September of 25. And that's pretty frustrating. A lot of our customer base comes that way. We use that road to access our customers also. We've got a gas line that was going to take 1 week to go in. We didn't know about it except that we went and talked to the contractor. A month later, there's still a road closed sign for that also. So communication is difficult, but we need to get these projects going a little bit quicker than they do go. I agree with you on the unemployment tax. I mean, it's a catastrophe. Anyone who has employees is going to get hit hard by that, and it's too bad that the state made 2 mistakes, and now businesses have to pay for it. Green initiatives, we do heating oil, so obviously we're not the most green company around, but I talked to you about the issue where the state had a part of one of the bills was that we had to certify that 3% of our customers were putting in heat pumps. It sounds great if you're writing that bill, but it's just an impossibility. It's not that kind of business that we're in, but that was something you're going to strangle us with. So there's a lot going on. Again, Holliston Oil has been here over 75 years. A good community asset. We're going to stay here, and just need a little bit of help.
Sure. Okay.
I'm Michael Gallerani. I'm here to listen. I'm actually an applicant for the economic development job, so that's why I'm here, and hopefully I'll be interviewed and can tell you some of the answers I think that you're probably looking for.
Hi, I'm Jane Guilfoyle. My husband and I, Bruce, own the Guilfoyle Art and Framing in town. We've been here, I don't know, over 20 years in this location on Central Street. We're a tiny little shop. I guess our main issue, us in Candy Cottage, is the parking that in our front of our stores, we're right next to each other. We only really have 2 spots now, because one was taken over by a handicap. And almost every day, people who work in Holliston park right there all day long. And we put little nice notices on the window, which they just rip up and throw out and come back the next day. We've called the police. They don't enforce it. It's frustrating because I have a frame shop. People come in with huge things every once in a while, or leave with huge things, and we're dragging their stuff down the street. So the Green Street, well, that'll be great, but only if people park in it. We've told people, business owners or workers, park at behind the fire station. It's free. You can park there all.
Okay.
Oh, that's too far. We can't possibly walk that way.
This has been an issue since we moved to Holliston. I live downtown in Mudville.
Yeah,
so I just have a question for Travis. Is there ever any thought to say, for the local business, why not 1 hour parking or 2 hour parking?
We have 2 hour parking. It's not enforced, though.
Are there signs that say 2 hour parking?
Oh, yeah.
Because I wouldn't have known that, and I probably have walked 100 times down the street. But I don't, you can answer that. It's more of a local issue, but
Yeah, it's a
wait, it's
local.
been there forever. But it's true, though, that there's plenty of parking right behind the fire station. It's
Yeah.
not that much further to downtown.
They don't want to
I think
walk.
I think that parking, so, I mean, now at this point where we are, right, the Green Street lot should have gone live already, but it is what it is, and it should be opening soon. Blair Square is now live, right, so I think one of the things that ties both together is having ample parking right in the middle of that with a way to come out, you know, a pathway, I believe, was done by Mark Aronian a while back. The parking lot itself, I think, could use some work. It's one of the other ones that we've entered into. If, you know, the state has programs to put in EV parking, I'd like to not necessarily be every EV parking be the town-owned. I'd like some private sector ones, but theoretically that would be a great location. Park there, you can go to the trail, you can go to downtown. The Green Street lot obviously benefits downtown. So I think both of those theoretically, I think that lot, if I was coming from out of town, you know, it's easy to walk to it from your business, but to access it, you need to know how to get around to it, right? Because the entrance isn't off of Central. So I think that could use better signage, and that's part of actually what MAPC had pointed out as well. And then I'll have to talk to HPD regarding, you know, the 2 hours, and I'll update you through that.
Yeah.
Donna Katie, I own the Candy Cottage located right next door to Guilfoyle, and the parking is our biggest thing. And it's the frustrating part is business owners who work right within the little area right there, who park there, and we've tried to be nice and put notices, and it doesn't work.
They leave the car all day. Interesting.
John Paltrinari, Fish General Store, 50 years. I don't have any complaints other than the eyesore of that gas station across the street that I've been looking at for 50 years. But it's only been bad for, what, 15? I don't remember how long now. I would love to see the Economic Development Commission maybe help us out, try to get the holiday stroll rolling again. I think it's a great community event that Don and I were involved in for many years. We're getting older and tired, so we need a hand. So we can get some help, get that thing rolling again, smaller scale than probably where we left it off. You know, no big party up here, entertainment and everything, but small scale. I think the community really enjoys it. People come from all around. They come home to see their relatives at Thanksgiving, and then the next day they get to stroll downtown, tie it in with a nice walk for the, you know, down Central Street. You know, we did candlelit walk down there, and with the tree lighting.
Right.
I think it all ties in very nicely. So that would be something I would ask that group to maybe help us with, because we're having trouble with volunteerism at this point. Okay? And other than that, I'm happy to be part of Holliston. It's a wonderful community. I married a girl from here, raised my son here, and it's just, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Did you want to?
My name is Chinmaya Gogineni. I'm part of the Economic Development Committee. I'm also a small business owner, but with nothing in framing, with nothing in Holliston yet. I have a business in Framingham, I have a business in New Hampshire, and I have a business in Colorado, but nothing in Holliston yet. I'm hoping I can be attracted to come here. I'm also part of the Economic Development Committee, so I'm speaking to myself.
If you don't mind, what kind of business do you do?
I have a variety of businesses, but like real estate development and rentals is what I do most. For my day job, I also do product management for a cancer diagnostics company, so I consult for product management resources as well. So that's the other piece.
Terrific. Thank you. I'm going to close. Do you want to say a word before I finish? Do you want to just say goodbye before I finish?
No, I think
you could.
I think
I can close.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to close. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Travis, for joining and helping to answer questions, because as we know, a lot of issues play out at the local community level. Thank you again, Angie. Thank you, John Drohan, for helping to promote this. I appreciate that. And really, I think you all have my card by now. If you have any questions about anything, whether it's related to business, whether it's related to what's going on in Holliston, what's going on at the state, please feel free to reach out. If we will try to get you an answer, and if we aren't the ones responsible, we can at least get you to the right person who can. If it's something that falls outside state government, we're happy to still be a channel to help you navigate. I'm looking forward to serving this community. I love Holliston. I want to be helpful. I really believe in small business. I am on the Small Business Committee, which is kind of an interesting place for me to be at, and I'm already talking to them about some things that we need to do to help the small business community, and I'll look forward to working with all of you. I'm happy to come out and meet. I've already been at some of your businesses, but please, I'm looking forward to coming and spending time and listening and hearing about what you do. Thanks for spending the time with us, and thanks for being here tonight, and thanks again to HCAT for putting this on. Thank you.